Good morning. This is OpenSnow Meteorologist Alan Smith bringing you your severe weather forecast for Monday, June 16th, 2025. Our friends at the Storm Prediction Center have issued a level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk for severe weather across portions of Minnesota and Nebraska, while a level 2 out of 5 slight risk covers much of the northern plains region toward the eastern slopes of the Rockies in Wyoming and Montana. There are three distinct severe weather threat areas today. Zone number 1 covers Minnesota and western Wisconsin. Zone number 2 covers Nebraska, northern Kansas, and northeast Colorado. And zone number 3 covers portions of South Dakota, Wyoming, and Montana. First, let's take a look at Minnesota and western Wisconsin. A surface low will reach the North Dakota Minnesota border around midday and will track eastward across northern Minnesota through the afternoon. Ahead of the low pressure area and an approaching cold front, a warm and moist air mass will be in place near and south of the warm front, which will support an unstable atmosphere conducive to thunderstorm development. At the same time, an upper level jet will approach from the west, which will contribute to strong deep layer wind shear and low level wind shear in the afternoon, resulting in a threat of supercell thunderstorms and multi-cell clusters capable of large hail, tornadoes, and damaging straight line winds. Now, the challenge to the forecast comes from large clusters of showers and thunderstorms moving through the region on Monday morning. The morning activity is leading to widespread cloud cover that could linger into the afternoon and potentially limit the surface heating needed for thunderstorm development. On the other hand, if cloud cover erodes in time for surface heating to be realized in the afternoon, more localized outflow boundaries from the morning activity could also contribute to thunderstorm initiation and further enhance low-level wind shear. In other words, this is a boom or bust setup across Minnesota and western Wisconsin that will largely hinge on whether or not cloud cover erodes and whether there will be enough surface instability and vertical motion for storms to break through the capping inversion. However, if surface heating is sufficient this afternoon, a volatile environment exists for a potentially high-end severe weather day, especially across north central, eastern Minnesota, and western Wisconsin, where low level wind shear would support a risk for tornadoes and large hail. Supercell thunderstorms will be possible initially, supporting the higher threat of tornadoes and hail, before growing into larger multi cell clusters, with damaging straight line winds becoming the primary threat. Our StormNet model has a medium to high risk of tornadoes within 15 miles of a point across north central and east central Minnesota, eventually pushing into western Wisconsin, and this indicates what is possible should sufficient surface heating be realized this afternoon. The peak window for this tornado threat looks to be from about 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. Central Time. Across the Central Plains, a cold front will stall across central Nebraska and fluctuate back and forth slightly through the afternoon and evening, and this will act as a focal point for thunderstorm development. Surface dew points rising into the upper 60s and low 70s, and an extremely unstable air mass are expected in the vicinity of the frontal boundary, and wind shear will also be strong as a shortwave trough moves into the area from the west late in the day. A capping inversion may suppress thunderstorm development initially, but by mid to late afternoon, capping is expected to weaken near the frontal boundary, and perhaps over northwest Kansas, with discrete supercells favored initially, with the potential for golf ball to softball size hail. The best chance of supercell thunderstorms with a large hail risk will be from about 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central Time, and our StormNet model has pockets of high risk for large hail stretching from central Nebraska into northeast Colorado. A relatively narrow window of tornado potential will also exist near the frontal boundary early in the evening as low-level wind shear increases, especially over southwest Nebraska, where StormNet has a low to medium risk of tornadoes from about 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Central Time. Discrete supercell thunderstorms will be favored initially, and as low-level shear increases, this is when there will be a risk of tornadoes. But by mid to late evening, storms are expected to grow into multi-cell clusters and eventually an MCS, which stands for Mesoscale Convective System. A strong MCS is projected to track across Nebraska and northern Kansas overnight, with the main severe weather hazard shifting damaging straight-line winds, with gusts of 60 to 70 miles per hour possible. StormNet has areas of moderate to high risk of damaging winds tracking across Nebraska and northern Kansas between about 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Central Time. Severe thunderstorms are also possible across southern Montana, eastern Wyoming, and western South Dakota again today, a region that has been the prime spot for severe weather in recent days. A cold front will stall along the eastern slopes of the Rockies, and east and northeast surface winds behind the front will lead to orographic lift, supporting thunderstorm development over the higher terrain by early afternoon. Storms have the potential to develop into supercells as they track eastward from the Rockies into the high plains and Black Hills, with golf ball to tennis ball size hail posing the primary severe threat. StormNet has a high risk of hail over northeast Wyoming late in the afternoon, where wind shear will likely be strongest in the favored right entrance region of the jet stream, with a medium risk over southern Montana. The peak risk for large hail will be from about 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. While a tornado can't be ruled out across this region, the overall threat is limited due to weaker low-level wind shear compared to areas further east. Heading into the evening hours, storms are expected to form into multi-cell clusters across eastern Wyoming and western South Dakota, with isolated severe wind gusts of 58 miles per hour or higher possible. On Tuesday, the Storm Prediction Center has a level 3 out of 5 enhanced risk over Kansas, with the level 2 out of 5 slight risk extending eastward into Missouri and southern Iowa and westward into Colorado. We have noted two main risk areas for this setup. The primary risk area will be over Kansas and western Missouri, in the warm sector near and south of a warm front, and to the east of a surface low and cold front, where a warm and humid air mass will be in place. A well-defined shortwave trough will also track across this region, resulting in an elevated risk of severe weather, with all hazards on the table, including large hail, tornadoes, and damaging straight-line winds. A secondary risk area is expected over eastern Colorado and southeast Wyoming, including the Denver metro area and I-25 corridor, where storms will be capable of producing large hail, while a tornado also couldn't be ruled out in this region. On Wednesday, the system will move eastward, with the low-pressure center tracking across northern Illinois. To the east of the low, a warm front will push northward into the Great Lakes area, while to the west of the low, a cold front will move across Illinois, Missouri, and Oklahoma. An unstable air mass east of the cold front and south of the warm front will support strong to severe thunderstorms, with multi-cell clusters and damaging straight-line winds posing the main severe weather threat. However, embedded or semi-discrete supercells also couldn't be ruled out, with some risk for large hail and tornadoes possible. Looking further out, the severe weather threat will reach the eastern U.S. on Thursday. A severe weather threat will then return to the northern plains on Friday and into the weekend as another trough of low pressure approaches from the west. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.